The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and guest do not necessarily reflect those of this station, the station's network, any other affiliates under this network, or its sponsors. Unless they do, and then we'll totally take credit for them, because this is radio, and that's how we roll.
Here we go.
News, sports, comedy, politics, everything you would expect in a morning show. Faster than the fastest nightmare. Brighter than the dullest dream.
Right here.
Right now. The Morning Show with Uncle Bill. Grab your coffee and hang on. For the next 2 hours, the unexpected will haunt you, entertain you, and drive you absolutely insane. So let's get started. Here's Uncle Bill.
Well, good morning, my friends. Welcome, and welcome to the studio audience. We have a house full today, and it is a glorious, glorious day today. Although, albeit this morning, we came in and apparently, now we didn't have any wind yesterday. I mean, there was some moderate breeze yesterday, but for the most part, it was a glorious day outside, and no storms came through the area. And this morning we came in, and there is a gigantic, huge part of our tree out in front of the church laying on the sidewalk and into the road. So don't know what caused it to fall, but glad nobody was walking on the sidewalk this morning or whenever that happened. We have no clue when it happened. But anyway, so it's they've got it cleaned up already. Boy, the city was right out there. Boom, they had it cleaned up, and we got that taken care of. So that is a good way to start the day. Good morning. I'm your host, Uncle Bill, and this is BNNS Radio, where you can get real-time answers to all your needed news, like news, sports, and anything that you want to know about. Today is Tuesday, and it is the first day of August. You know, that is scary. My wife and I were talking about this yesterday, that it's almost scary in a way, because why is it when August 1st rolls around, it feels like we're almost out of summer already? I mean, granted, you know, August can be a very hot month, and, you know, and there's a lot of things that goes on in August. But for us, here in the north central Illinois area, next Monday, or Tuesday, I'm sorry, a week from today, we begin the Boone County Fair. And when the fair is over, it's like summer is over. It's just got a symbolism that once the fair comes and goes, well, it's back to school, and summer's over. And you have one final weekend to get out and have a good time. One final holiday, Labor Day. And where has summer gone? I mean, honestly, it feels like we just began. It feels like things just turned green here just a month ago, and it just amazes me how quickly time flies when you're having a good time. Do you know that life has to be given a meaning because of the obvious fact that life has no meaning? You agree with that statement or not? Do we have to give life a meaning because it doesn't really have a meaning? Think about that. That's the thought for the day. Also, it is Solve All Your Electronics Day today. Michael will be in at 9 o'clock, and we will solve all of your electronic questions if you just contact us. Let us know at 815-544-2967 or drop us a quick email at bnnsradio@gmail.com, or jump in the chat box where you'll be alone. Oh, no, Perry's in there this morning. Good morning, Perry. And, hey, did you get the house done, Perry? Yeah, what a week already. I agree. It's only the second day into the week, and what a week. And I also want to give a shout out to the crew yesterday that began working on our fellowship hall yesterday here just outside my studio. And the guys worked, and they got 2 coats of primer and 1 coat of regular paint on. Got it almost all completed. They got 1 day left to finish up out there, and I just want to give a shout out to Tim and Gary and Kevin and Trevor and Kenny and all the guys that worked out there. I'm not sure who all showed up yesterday, but those are the guys that I'm well aware of. And just wanted to give a shout out to them and thank them for all the hard work that they're doing in our fellowship hall. And, Perry's close in getting his painting done as well. So jump in the chat box, and if you have any questions, again, about any kind of electronic or computer questions, let us know, and we will try to solve them at 9 o'clock today. And we'll be back with more on the morning show with Uncle Bill right after this.
This one. So glad that we're changed. Forever changed. The storm's past, the gift received. You breathed your last, and in 3 days you rose again. Poured out your spirit till you come again. And I can't explain the way I deep inside my heart, your love is real, your love is good, and I'm forever changed. Yeah, yeah. Put him up, everybody, put him up, come on. He sent your son to sacrifice his life for us. He paid the price. He paid the price. He walked with us. He lived with man. He gave his life. He gave his life. He'll come again. He'll come again. And I can't explain the way I feel deep inside my heart. Your love is real. Your love is good. And I'm forever changed. Oh Lord, you've changed me on the inside. Give me strength to do your will. Oh Lord, please help me to shine my light like a lantern on a hill. Here we go. La-di-da-di, it's time to party, celebrate life, testify to everybody about my new lifestyle, my newfound daddy who changed me forever, ever, and ever. There's a few things that's forever, no longer the same man I used to be, a crowd motivator. I motivate souls to be down with the Savior, the healer, redeemer, protector, the ruler. I am no longer the same. Storms past, I no longer feel the pain. The gift received. Thank you, Lord, for the blessings. You breathe your last, and your love is amazing. And in 3 days, you rose from the grave. You rose again. Sacrifice that you gave. Poured out your spirit. I receive it with my hands high. I surrender now. I surrender now. Come on. Let's go. Yes, let's go. Hey, everybody, put him up there. Put him up, put him up, put him up there. Celebrate, y'all. Give him praise, give him praise. Celebrate, celebrate now. Hey.
Want to know what's going on in Belvedere, Illinois, or around the world? Then tune to BNNSradio.com on your computer or your mobile device and give us a listen. That's BNNSradio.com.
All right, we are back here live in our studio, and Perry has joined us in the chat box along with Peggy, and Sister Peggy is in the chat box this morning, and we welcome both of them. And you can jump in the chat box too. Come on, if you're listening to us over your computer, jump into chat box and get this chat box rolling. By the way, for those that are wondering, I had dropped that other chat box. We're going to stay with Exat, even though some have a difficult time getting into it for some whatever reason that may be, probably because of flash drive. But the other one was just a little bit too confusing and too plain, and I think we've been with Exat for so long that everybody's so used to it and comfortable with it, and so just forget that other thing. And Perry, let me tell you, you mentioned in the chat box that you have to start on your deck. It's a mess. Let me tell you, my wife and I just put a new deck on our house. We didn't tear down the whole frame. We just put new decking board on and railings, and we went with the composite and the maintenance-free composite and metal railings, and it is absolutely wonderful. No maintenance. And it's got a long-time guarantee, and can't remember exactly how long the guarantee is on it, but boy, I'll tell you what, if you can handle it, that is by far the best way to go. It is, I mean, my wife and I have actually sat on our deck more in the last 2 weeks than we have the entire 11 years that we've lived in a condo. I don't know what it was about the wood deck, but this, for some reason, maybe it's just because it's new. I don't know. Maybe the newness will wear off after a while, but we actually sit out there, and it's just very well. Actually, true with this new railing, it's a smaller in diameter, the uprights and the spindles, and so it doesn't block our view like the other did, and so we actually get to see more. Sad part of it is, well, and why is it that people, well, I'll ask this question in a moment. Let me get the other staffers in here, because I think this is something worth discussing, because I have a question about decks.
Big D, co-host on the morning show with Uncle Bill, right here on BNNS Radio. You'll wonder how you ever got along without him.
Oh, good morning, Uncle Bill.
Good morning, Big D. How are you?
I am doing good today. I am in a good mood this morning.
Well, it's about time.
What do you mean it's about time? I'm always in a good mood. You're the old...
It's taken you 9 years to get here. You finally got here.
Thank you, Walter.
Also joining us all the way from Omaha is our research team and co-host. I don't know what do we call you, Craig?
I have no clue. But good morning to all of you.
Just don't call him late to supper.
Right.
There you go.
You can call Craig whatever you want. He's our researcher. He's our quick lookup guy. If something comes up on the air and he wants to a quick look it up, he'll do that. And he also does some research and offers show ideas, suggestions, and things like that. But so welcome, guys, and welcome to the team. I have a question for you guys this morning.
Sure.
Why do people, when they build a deck, why do they always put it on the back of the house?
I've seen some that are doing on the front.
I've got one on 3 sides of my house.
Now, it's a porch.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm seeing. It's just elaborate porches.
But see, the old-time houses used to have a front porch. And people would go out there and sit on a front porch and swing, chat, watch the people walking down the sidewalk, and somebody walked by that you knew, you always struck up a conversation. And it was what we did. But now, when people build decks, they put them on the back of the house. Now, my wife and I go out and sit on our deck, and I don't think our condo association would allow us to put one on the front of the house, but because of their rules. But if we had a house, why did we do away with the front porch and put the front porch on the back of the house and call it a deck? Because isn't it more interesting to sit on the front deck or front porch and visit with people that are in front of your house? Because whoever walks behind your house, and we sit back there and we are looking around, and now we got gorgeous landscaping, we got gorgeous trees, and we enjoy our hawks that are living in our trees this year and things like that. But we were commenting on this the other day that we actually enjoy sitting on the driveway in our lawn chairs more than we enjoy really sitting on the deck, because that's where the people are. Now, whether, of course, people didn't have barbecues and fire pits and all that kind of stuff in the old days when we had front porches, because we didn't need them. I guess they built decks now because that's where we go out and cook our meals on our barbecues. I don't know.
I got a question. What's the difference between a deck and a porch?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking you.
There is none.
Well, apparently there is, because the decks go on the back of the house. Have you ever heard anybody say, I'm going to build a deck on the front of my house?
Yes. But I've never understood. People had back porches, and then when they quit using, to put the washer and stuff out there on the back porch.
Porches were always enclosed, though.
Well, I know some back decks that are enclosed.
Well, sure, those aren't decks. Those are usually called season rooms.
No, I'm talking about just with screen and stuff.
Well, that's a summer room. It's they put screens on it to avoid the skeeters. But I think they call that a deck.
Aren't semantics fun?
Yeah. But you can't help but wonder, why do we stick ourselves in the back of the house where you never see anybody?
Well, in my case,
the one on the back of my mom's house was just a screened-in porch, but the busiest street was the back street, so that's why they built that on the back of the house, because you could sit on the back porch, watch people walk up and down the street, etc.
True, your mom had a street in front of her house and one in the back of her house. But normally, most residential areas now, you don't have that luxury. They build they make these lots in such a way that they're long and narrow, and so you have a street or a house on this street and a house on this street and yards in between with the fence separating them. So, but your mom was very fortunate in that her house sat between two streets, as most of the houses in Carter Lake are that way. You have a front and a back, and you could sit on either side of your house and meet or greet and see people. Right?
Well, Mom's back street was one of the busy streets in Carter Lake. Her front porch was strictly, the only reason you'd go up and down it was to see one of the houses. Mom's back street went to the major city park,
Sure.
So I still miss sitting on her porch drinking iced tea and just watching cars go up and down the street and people walking, and the ones you knew hollered, said hello.
Well, the nice thing about your mom's back porch, too, was the fact that you got to sit in there and, like you said, swing and drink tea and what have you, but she also had a big enough yard that the young'uns got to go out there and play, and you could still see the traffic going up and down the street.
Yeah.
And you got to see the neighbors across the street. So, but you drive in a modern subdivision today, and you don't have that luxury. The only thing you have behind you is a fence dividing you from the neighbor's yard. Sometimes. Not everybody has a fence, but most people do put up a fence, and a lot of them put up a privacy fence. It's like they want to be private from their neighbors when we're supposed to be neighborly. Always reminds me of Tim the Tool Man that used to go out and talk to the neighbor.
Wilson.
And all he saw is just his hat.
Wilson,
yeah.
You know, but see, and I got to laugh at you guys because what's the front and the back on my house? I sit 350 feet off the road on a heavily wooded property. I don't have a front and a back porch. I just got a porch on both ends of the house.
You see Perry's post?
Yeah, I'm going back here just a little bit here. Let's see. Mine is around the back and the side, and you sit and wave at people. There's a house in Carter Lake on Mary Street with a deck in front. Is that called a porch because it's in the front of her house, or do you still call it a deck? And Perry says a porch is a covered shelter protecting in front of the entrance of a house or a building in general. The structure is external to the walls of the building, but it may be enclosed in certain types of frames, including walls, columns, screens, and so forth. Now, Grandma's house had a back and a front porch. And she did her laundry on the back porch, and we sat on the front porch.
Okay, so a porch is a deck with a cover over it.
A deck is a flat surface capable of supporting weight similar to a floor, but typically constructed outdoors, often elevated off the ground and usually connected to a building. The term is a generalization of decks as found on ships.
I didn't know that's where the name came from.
I didn't either. I did not know that.
Well, you just explained a front porch.
I mean, you know, I never, this is, by the way, folks, this is real radio because we didn't plan this. This was not a planned discussion, but all of a sudden it just hit me when I mentioned the fact that we sat out on the deck or Perry is going to replace his deck or paint it. And it just hit me. What's the difference between a porch and a deck? And why did we put the decks on the front of the house? So,
Just some of the ridiculous crap we bring up once in a while.
Yeah, well,
now the kids are going to build me a deck this summer so I can get the wheelchair in and out of the house.
That's a ramp.
I'm going to have them build me a regular deck, like about the size of yours, but have a ramp built onto, to get onto the deck.
Oh, sure.
I got one of those too. Those will help a lot, Craig.
D, you're one of these guys that's got everything.
That's right. And then some things I've got two of them painted red. No, we years ago we actually did that because my father-in-law was having trouble navigating stairs because of a bad leg, and so we came down here with some other folks and built a ramp to the back, to the side deck. And then years later, my mother-in-law had one of those hover-around chairs, and it was just easier to get her up and down, out of the house.
Yeah.
With it.
Well, I really, really do miss the front porch. I really, really do. Houses of the old days always had a front porch, and it was capable of holding several chairs, and it was just absolutely great having a front porch to sit on with a swing. And whether you were visiting with another family member or whether you were visiting with a neighbor or somebody just strolling down the street, it was nice. But nowadays, you have to build a bunker on the front of your house because somebody might drive by and shoot at you for sitting on your front porch. Especially if you live in Illinois.
Especially.
Or build your house 275 yards back from the street like your house is, Dee.
Yeah, if they hit my house from the street, I've got some damaged trees.
I'm interested in that fancy wood that you're using on yours, Bill. Please send me a link to that.
Is that new composite stuff?
Yep, it's composite, and it's called Trex, Trex. Just write that down, Craig, and it's just called Trex Composite Decking. And there is a different and cheaper form of a maintenance-free decking, and it's hollow, and it's ribbed, but it's hollow inside. And don't buy that. I realize it's cheaper, but it does buckle. And somebody was telling my daughter that they just built a house and put a gigantic, beautiful deck on their house, utilizing this maintenance-free, not the composite, but the other maintenance-free material. And they just finished the deck, and they had a major hailstorm. One of our infamous hailstorms of the year came through this, and it destroyed the entire deck. The hailstones went right through it. Now, fortunately for them, the builders and whatever, they guaranteed it and covered it and replaced the entire deck. Now, whether they replaced it with the same material or what, we don't know, but it hailed so hard that it actually put holes through their deck.
Yeah, a few years ago up here, up close to where I was living before I moved down here, they had a subdivision built, and the way the houses were designed, and they had full basements on them. Now, understand, they did not dig in. They just built a full basement and then built a house on top of it. So by the time they got ready to put these decks on, they were like 14, 16 feet off the ground. In some cases, where the property dropped off in the back of the house. Anyway. Huh?
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and we were watching the news one night, and some folks they had about 10 or 12 people out on their new deck. They just bought the house, had a housewarming, had about 10 or 12 people, and the deck pulled away from the house and fell.
Yeah, that's happened many times.
And investigators started looking at other houses in the neighborhood, and I think they found like 5 or 6 more where the deck was already pulling away from the house.
Poor workmanship. But here,
absolutely,
there is something, and I now that kind of clarifies for me a question, because when we were rebidding our insurance contract, not only for our house but for the association, because we have to have 2 separate policies, one to cover our contents and one to cover the property. And one of the questions that they ask us is that do any of your condominiums have an above-ground deck? And I thought, well, now that's kind of a dumb question, because all decks are above ground. I mean, have you ever seen a deck below ground? No. But other than if somebody designed one with, it's kind of sunken a little bit, but that's a patio. But anyway, I kind of questioned, and then I read down, and it described that what we mean by above ground deck is one that you can walk under. And so I understand, but I thought, that's kind of a weird question to ask, because what difference does it make if it's above where you can walk under it or whether it's solid on the ground like ours? But it makes perfect sense in that, like what you just said, above grounds can pull away and collapse. And they want to know that, because that's an increased liability. Or if you get too many people on the deck, like some of these partiers have done, where they get, the deck is built for 25 people and they put 75 people on the deck, and then it gives way and crashes to the ground. So I can understand that question.
So an above ground deck is any deck you can walk under? Yes, sir. Well,
according to the insurance industry.
Well, that's kind of up in the air, isn't it?
Why? Oh God.
What if you're a midget?
If you can walk under it, it's above ground.
Okay. All right.
Now, what I always wanted to do I have a single level house, and I always wanted to build a carport off the north side of my house, Bill, and for my wife to park in, and then build a deck on top of it.
That would be considered an above ground deck.
Right. Of course, I'm not going to do that now because I could never do the stairs. And the other thing, when you said an above ground deck, I thought you were talking about, I call them floating decks, which is what I want in the front of my house. They are not embedded in the ground. You put them on pads. My deck would be maybe a foot off the ground. So there's no sense sinking posts 4 foot in the ground below the frost line. I'll just put them on concrete pads.
Will that pass code?
I don't know. I don't care.
Because according to code around here, you can't do that.
Yeah. That's what I'm going to have them do in the front of my house.
And Peggy mentioned there's a house on the way to Indianola in Iowa, coming from Des Moines, that has a wraparound porch all the way around the house. And I agree, Peggy, because there's a house that was across the street from the funeral home where I used to work, and it had an entire porch all the way around the house. In fact, early days before Belvedere really got developed, it once was a horse farm, and they used to house horses in the back. But they had this complete wraparound deck. Well, they have removed portions of the deck, or the porch, the wraparound porch. And they wanted to put that house into a historical district. And because they created a historical district in that neighborhood because of the architecture of some of the early homes of Belvedere. And in order for that house to qualify as a historical home and be put into the historical district, they would have to replace every bit of the porch that was original, or at least, resemble what was original. And but it was a gorgeous house with this wraparound. I saw pictures of it, and it had this wraparound long, and on the side the wraparound porch led into a bigger room that was all screened in and everything, and it was really kind of neat. Really kind of neat. Well, let's move on. I think we could talk that one into the ground, but I think everybody understands the pleasure of sitting on a deck or sitting on a porch and the fond memories that it brings back. At least it does for me, because I found some of the most enjoyable times of my life were sitting on the porch with my grandma, with my aunts and other family members, my sisters, my mom, my dad, and unfortunately not my brother, because I didn't have any brothers. Just 4 evil sisters. No, I loved all my sisters. I still do. I mean, I still do. So, anyway.
Okay, Cinderella.
Anyway, boy, I'll catch it for that one. Oh, currently in Belvedere, we are at a comfortable 70 degrees. The winds are calm. We have some overcast skies today, which is going to be great because our landscapers are going to be out repairing some damaged areas in our yard today, so it'll be nice for them to work in the shade of the clouds. 81% humidity. High today, 81%, with some of the clouds moving out and some sunshine coming through. And so all in all, it's going to be a very pleasant day today, and humidity is going to remain right around 72%. So by standards of Northern Illinois, that is a completely comfortable, wonderful day. So get out there and enjoy. Tomorrow, we are expecting some rain to move into the area, 50% chance of some scattered thunderstorms, and it's going to be scattered, so it may or may not hit you. Winds are only going to be at 4 miles per hour, so there's no threat of any severe weather of any sort. And then on Thursday, it jumps up to 100% probability of rain and thunderstorms. And I don't see any warnings yet, but we will have some thunder boomers connected with Thursday. So get out and enjoy today and part of tomorrow, whatever time it decides. It might or might not rain in your area. And that's what the weather forecast is for central Illinois, north central Illinois. Hey, guys, what do you think about, have we set a new record in government? I know we don't like to talk a lot of government lately, but we're going to talk a little bit today because I think it's pretty cool. Scaramucci, he's only been in office 10 days, 250 hours to be exact, and he's out of there. Is that a record? Is that the shortest that anybody has ever, as communications director, is that the shortest anybody ever held?
According to Rush Limbaugh, yes.
Yep. See, Donald Trump is good at setting records.
I believe I've never heard of anybody only working 10 days.
Well, when you come in with a potty mouth and the Godfather attitude, Scaramucci, that sounds a little Italian, doesn't it?
Oh, he sat down behind his desk. Oh, why are you disrespecting me like this? You know, and I mean, we're talking. He came in like the Goodfellas on this.
Well, you know what I think it is?
What's that?
You know what I think? Because as much as I like Donald Trump as my president, I really think that Scaramucci came in with the Trump attitude that I can have a potty mouth and get away with it. But when you listen to what Scaramucci was saying to some of the media, it was a bit more than just having a slight potty mouth.
Well, you don't call up a reporter and threaten him because he won't tell you who his source is.
Well, I didn't hear about that part of it, but
oh yeah.
All I know is that, according to Twitter, Donald Trump was tweeting that he found Scaramucci's language a little bit overwhelming and undesirable for a communications director to banter the media the way he was. He said nothing about any phone calls.
Well, Scaramucci, I mean, what he said about Rance Priebus, that right there should have gotten him ousted.
Well, I think that was the one thing that did tick off Trump to the point where he began to consider, your stay in the house is short, my friend. So, anyway, he's out, and now we don't know who's going to be in. He's hunting for a good replacement. And staff director, chief of staff, I should say, has been replaced. And I guess he jumped right in with both feet and began right away.
Well, he's talking about word is Kellyanne Conway taking that position, communications director.
Okay.
That's the last I heard.
I don't know.
Hey, Uncle Bill, speaking of
yes,
government, your boys out there in Chicago and the state of Illinois about to lose their minds, aren't they?
Why is that?
Well, can you explain to me what's going on? I mean, you got a state that is in absolute turmoil. You got a state that's about to go broke. It's about to do the imitation of the Titanic.
Well, see, here and again, here's one of the reasons that I really admire Donald Trump. Because you and I, as well as probably 100 million other people in this country, at least I know some other radio commentators have said the same thing, that government officials, whether they're a representative or a senator or whatever they play in government, should not live under any different standards than what the American people live. Because, after all, we are their bosses, and they work for us, and they set the rules, but why should they be exempt from everything that they force upon us? And Donald Trump says, you guys either buckle down and get this health care bill cleared up, or you're going to start living under Obamacare. You're going to have to pay just like everybody else.
Oh, I heard that.
I don't think he should make that a threat. I think he should make it a very definite take away their, what do they call it? Take away their, I want to say rider, but that's not it. But there's a clause in Obamacare that says that government officials don't have to have or live under or have Obamacare. And Trump says you either come up with a new plan or you're going to start living under the same plan. And I Twittered, went on and tweeted Trump and said, why don't you extend that same option to Social Security? Make your congressmen live under the same conditions we that are surviving on Social Security have to live under. And you'll see how quick they change that one.
And I want to take a moment here, Bill, to remind everybody. And we can, if we need to, we go back and pull some of the old shows, I believe. But it was right here on our shows. At the time we were doing, Bill and I were doing separate shows, but we were working with each other. And we brought this up on both shows. That Obamacare omitted Congress and high-ranking government officials.
Yep.
Omitted it. It's written in Obamacare. All others must pay.
Yep. And it's a proven fact that many people who had insurance that were forced to go under Obamacare, their premiums quadrupled in some cases. I mean, it's a nightmare. And yet they walk away. Where was it I was reading? I read some article. I didn't put a lot of credence in it. But was it New Jersey?
Nude what?
New Jersey.
Oh, I thought.
No, or was it California? California it was. Out in California, they raised the gas tax 400%. 400% tax increase on gas. And then they gave themselves free gas. They get all the gas they want and don't have to pay a dime for it.
Yeah, state buys it.
Now, what does that say to the American people or the California people?
Well, that's why folks are leaving California in droves, Bill. They're leaving California faster than they're leaving Illinois.
Well, and also there's talk of California is on the verge of seceding from the U.S.
Can we help?
As if we couldn't be so lucky.
Can we help?
I'll sign the paper. You write it, I'll sign it.
You're out of here.
Here are your walking papers.
Where can we donate?
Whatever happened to a few months ago when California and the United States, and I apologize if I don't remember the source it came from, but they were going to ask the United States to bail them out because they're so in debt.
Yeah.
You guys hear about that?
Yeah.
Whatever happened to it?
Exactly. Well, the United States told them where to take their request and put it, and that's why they jumped the price of the gas up 400% because they need money.
Now.
So do you think that's why they're wanting to secede, because they were told no?
Yep.
But get this, guys. Let's go back just a little bit further in the past. California was making fun when Texas was talking about seceding. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
California was, Texas was the butt of so many jokes in California.
Well, at one point, if you remember, there were about 30 states that were wanting to secede.
Still are.
I mean, there was a bevy of states that wanted to separate because Donald Trump is the president. Oh, my God, they can't live under such conditions.
What?
You don't remember that?
They were wanting to secede because of Obama, not because of Trump.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That's right. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
You had me confused there a minute, bud.
Yeah, well, I get confused once in a while.
Yes, if you have a family member in this condition, call 1-800-THE-HOME. Thank you. No, it's, we talk about so much, and so much changes, folks. We're liable to have a slip of the tongue. It really is.
Easily done on the ear, I'll tell you.
It is. But, that's what amazes me is it's like these politicians and these special interest groups, Bill, depend on the fact that most people, their memory is only 6 months long.
Well,
that's how Ted Kennedy kept getting elected. That's how Nancy Pelosi gets elected. That's how many of these politicians, if you watch 6 months before the election, they get real quiet.
That's why some entertainers still make $2 and $3 and $4, $10, $15 million a year, because they didn't leave the United States like they promised. And people still pay to go see their shows. But they were going to leave the United States if that mean guy got in.
Yeah, if you notice, Rosie O'Donnell says crap like that and then gets quiet for about 4 or 5 months. Yeah. And then she's back doing something.
Whoopi Goldberg is another one.
Yep,
she was quite vocal.
She's still on the Talk or the View or whatever that ugly show is, but here's the thing. We've got 30 states, last count, I think 30 states that have said that up until the point Donald Trump got elected, they were ready to secede from the U.S. Mm-hmm.
We've got politicians right now that are still acting like Obama's in office. We've got politicians you probably would not think would do it.
Well, if you just follow some of the other story leads, Obama thinks he's still in office.
Yeah. No kidding, I've read that. But you got guys like John McCain. He voted against the fixing Obamacare. But nobody knows exactly why he voted no. Nancy Pelosi is heralded second only to Hillary Clinton for being one of the most intelligent women in this country by liberals, was asked the other day, why should we keep Obamacare? And she could not or would not answer that question. And while we're talking about Obamacare, Bill, I want to step in here a minute and remind you and Craig of some things, and our listeners. You know, they talk about, oh my God, millions of people are going to be hurt if they repeal Obamacare. Well, yeah, you might have a couple of million people. But here's the truth that they're not telling you. Is number one of the first things they kept in place was pre-existing conditions. People with pre-existing conditions under Obamacare will still be covered under the replacement. A new study came out that mainstream media is trying to cover it up. But they now have calculated that 15 million people, and that's going to be the lion's share of people on Obamacare right now. That's going to be 15 million people that were forced onto Obamacare. Would drop it in a minute. Companies have said, hundreds of thousands of small companies and large companies have said, if they would get rid of Obamacare and allow them to go shop for health care for their employees, they would reinstitute the 40-hour work week. What about, and we hear about these people, I've got health care for the first time ever. Well, great, I'm glad. But what about all these people who wound up having to pay 3 and 4 times the monthly payment, and their out-of-pockets doubled and tripled. See, that's the other part of the story is they're not telling you. Some of these people have got health care for the first time. Great, fine, love it. But there are millions and millions of people who, if they ever have a major medical problem, they're in trouble. Because they will be completely bankrupt before the insurance even cuts in. And they have to spend that out-of-pocket money before the insurance will write the first check. And some of these out-of-pockets are into the $20,000, $25,000 range.
Okay, we're coming up onto the top of the hour here. Wrap it up, D.
I'm just saying, folks, do your research on what it is these politicians are trying to do, and you're going to find out that people like Pelosi and McCain and these people, they've got some other agenda. I don't necessarily think it has to do with the American people. I think it has to do with Trump. But nobody right now is holding McCain or any of these people, these three, I forget exactly. I know McCain's the lead on it. But nobody's holding their feet to the fire on this. Nobody's questioning on them. And I think that's the media's biggest fault. Uncle Bill, I'm done. Just some facts that I thought I'd throw back out there for people.
No problem. And that takes us up to the top of the hour. And by the time we get back here, it will be time for solving your electronic questions. And Michael is in the studio anxiously waiting to get started. And if you have any computer questions, technical questions, or just some general electronic questions, give us a buzz. 815-544-2967, 815-544-2967, or jump into the chat box and put those questions to print, and we will ask them as soon as we come back from doing this.
Darkness fills my sky.
Rattle, rattle, thunder, clatter, chug, chug, chug. If this is how your car is sounding, you need to call 815-544-0537. That's right, my friends. Belvedere Auto Clinic, located 301 West Locust Street, Belvedere, Illinois. Call and ask for Tom. He can make your car run like new. That's right. Belvedere's best-kept little secret is Belvedere Auto Clinic. You need to call today, 815-544-0537. Come on, do it now.
Whether looking to buy a vehicle or in need of repairs, State Street Auto Rebuilders specialise in restoration, street rod building, collision repair and towing, as well as being a used car dealership and rentals. Located at 420 Fairview Street, Belvedere, Illinois, State Street Auto Rebuilders have been in business since 1982. For quotes and service, telephone State Street Auto Rebuilders on area code 815-544-7013.
The BNNS Morning Show with Uncle Bill. He was once a banker but lost interest.
Very funny.
He was once addicted to soap, but he's clean now.
Har.
He was once addicted to the hokey pokey, but he turned himself around.
Okay, that's enough now.
He used to be indecisive, but now he's not so sure.
Really, please stop.
He's only half ambidextrous.
Just get out.
He has the eye of the tiger and a lifetime ban from the zoo. Okay.
Security.
BNNS Radio.
All right, we are back here, and I just want to give a shout out to our sponsors and supporters out there, and just to name a few is Tom down there at Belvedere Auto Clinic at 301 West Locust Street, and don't forget our man over at State Street Auto Rebuilders on Fairview Street. And if your car is running and making those rattle, rattle, thunder, clatter, chug, chug, chug noises, and you can't drive it there, give Mr. Kidd a call, and he'll come and pick it up, and he'll deliver it to Tom for you, and then Tom will work on it, make it run like new. And if you are driving along and somebody pulls out in front of you and you get a banger on your car and it looks like bad, then call Mr. Kit. He'll come and pick it up, take it back to his shop, and make it look like new. So that's where new things happen right here on BNNS Radio, through Tom down there at Belvedere Auto Clinic and through Mr. Kit. And if you're hungry, visit our sponsor over there at Belvedere Pacemaker Food Market, and also the Poplar Grove Country Market. And those are some of our great sponsors and supporters, along with the Nogby, Ada Electronics, Michael Nogby. And we got sponsors that work in the background that help keep BNNS Radio alive and well, and we appreciate that. And we have a lot of contributors that contribute anonymously. And so, but if you want your name mentioned on the air, we can take care of that for you. All right, it is time for answering your technical problems or your electronics problems. Joining me in the studio right now is our good friend and our advisor on electronic and computer repair is Michael Nogby from Ada Electronics. And before we get into what we plan to discuss today, Mr. Kit, you write on the chat box that your computer has been acting up lately. And what, my friend, is going on with your computer? If you'll give us an indication as to what's happening with your computer on the chat, we'll try to answer that question. But in the meantime, Michael and I were discussing these new latest edition updates of Microsoft Windows 10. And Michael, what's happening with the new updates? There's been some disasters.
Yeah,
Good morning, everybody, first of all. But I know it gets old. We talk about these updates almost every time I'm here, but this latest wave has been really, really bad, and it's caused a lot of trouble. Kept me busy, which is fine. I'm not going to complain about that. But I, for the first time in maybe ever since I've been working on machines, I can't recall another instance specifically. There may have been one, but I actually had a couple of failed hard drives that took place right at the moment when there was a Windows update. And it was really strange because the methodology behind that is it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to me. And the reason why is because if you have an underlying hard drive issue and you run a Windows update, it can expose it during the update and maybe make it not take the update. However, these couple of machines I had over a 4 or 5 day period, and these are just 2 of about 10, were able to process the update and boot afterwards, and then it was upon another reboot that the machines wouldn't come back up. And, normally for those, you can roll them back or you can do a file repair and you can get them to come back up. These were unsuccessful with all those little tricks that I tried. And when I finally just said, okay, I'll just run hardware tests on these, the hard drives failed really, really fast. So it's hard to believe they would have been in that bad a condition prior to that. So I can't make the connection. I almost feel weird talking about it because I know people are going to say, how could it happen? I don't know. And I've talked to other people who are in the same industry, and they've seen a couple similar instances that they, like me, don't really seem to be able to connect dots on. But it's a big problem. It's a big problem, and it's ongoing. And like we talked about, Bill, it seems like the big problems always occur with machines that were not sold with Windows 10, but were upgraded to Windows 10. A lot of times that's a driver issue or just hardware compatibility overall to a newer operating system that it wasn't necessarily built with. So strange stuff, really strange stuff. But and again, I'm not telling people not to run updates. In most cases they go through fine, but there's sometimes they don't, and sometimes there's catastrophic issues like this.
Have you ever taken a computer that has given notice that the new update is ready to go and done a hardware check on that computer and then allowed it to do an update and then follow it up with another?
I've never done it because I've never had a reason to, but I do think it is something that I'm going to do. If I happen to have one in the shop at a moment when there is an update coming out, and I know that it is a large update, because it's always the larger updates that cause issues. The smaller ones seem to be fine, but the larger ones are the ones that seem to cause the issues with most machines. And so, I think if I have one in the shop and it's not a job that has to be out by a certain time, if I can have an extra day with it, because hardware tests take many hours, I will probably do that, and then I will run the update and run tests afterwards, even if it goes through correctly, just for the case of experimentation, or maybe on my own machines if I have one come up, But it's probably a worthwhile experiment. In years past, I never would have had a reason to. I've never really had that happen before.
Well, can you tell me real briefly, and then we'll get to Mr. Kitt's question, what major changes have you seen in this latest window update? Because you said it's a large one and pretty significant. What do they actually accomplish when they make? Because my machine went through it, and I've seen absolutely no change. Nothing has changed at all in my computer. So what are they adding, or what are they doing that they require this major update? I know that they've added some features that, you can draw and do different, fun things. But what is the main reason for this major update?
Well, if you listen to Microsoft, it's security and stability enhancements. But realistically, if you paid attention to the last one specifically, as soon as the update was done, it came up and asked you about privacy and security settings.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those questions, I believe there was 5 or 6 of them, like relevant ads, location tracking, all of those questions were related to tracking how you use your machine and marketing. So, in my opinion, it's about probably all of the above, but more so learning how to better market to you and how to track more of your activity than it would be for stability and security, although I know that's part of it. And so I've just told people mostly, you know, if they have any reservations about those questions, just turn all those options off. They make it sort of sound as though, hey, if you leave these on, you know, we'll be able to better develop software in the future because we'll be able to understand when things go bad. It'll send us, Windows will send us information on what happened. And by knowing how people use their computers, we can better fit software in the future. But, you know, I think that's none of their business. I mean, I don't think that any of the activity or things that users have done in the past have developed to a point where they've really, really made Windows 10, for example, or Windows 8 was at first, how hard was that to use when you first saw it? So you can't tell me that users were guiding them in that direction. I mean, that's just something they did on their own. So I think it's a wolf in sheep's clothing, so to speak. You know, maybe not a really good example, but I don't trust a lot of those things, and I'm not saying it to be a tinfoil hat guy, but most of it is about an invasion on our privacy and tracking and, you know, a lot of information that probably most of us would choose not to share if we knew we were doing so.
Well, I know that the ad part of it, that one question about ad relevancy and so on and so forth, I can understand that part of it because that's where a lot of people make lots of money.
Oh, sure.
By throwing ads onto Facebook and other social media sites and or private sites, even guys, you know, like me, for example, with our YouTube account now and with my Facebook, BNNS Facebook page, I could go out and sell advertisement, and anybody that visited my Facebook page or Twitter or any of those things, I could have advertisements on there if people were willing to pay to advertise on our radio network. So that part I can understand to a degree because, and at least they had the foresight to give you the option of turning that off. But more and more and more sites that I go to and visit today, they tell me in order for me to continue, I have to shut off my pop-up blocker. So that, because they say that it's the ads that keep us, you know, coming to you. Without the ads, we have to shut off. So they want you to shut off your ad blocker. But when they do that, it's bye-bye. Because I don't mind the ads so much, but don't force me to turn off my ad blocker so that unscrupulous can get in there.
Well, I mean, it's really sad because a lot of those advertisements, they end up being very, very harmful. For example, I have which you've been to my office many times, I have a computer up front which I just stream music on, you know, in the showroom area. And I was trying to stream a local station here, which I'm sure you know, ZOK. Guess I thought it would be, you know.
What?
Yeah.
What are you saying?
Sorry. Point being that it only came up through iHeartRadio, okay? And if you have iHeartRadio on for a number of hours, advertisements start to pop up. One of them was the advertisement that is not really an advertisement. It pops up and it tells you that you've got viruses on your computer, which, of course, this is one we've spoken about many times. And I just can't believe that a big website like that sells advertisements would allow dirty marketing like that to take place, you know. And of course, it's possible that those things could have been hijacked and it wasn't really intended to be that, but I don't think so. I honestly think that some of these radio stations, when they say, okay, yeah, sure, iHeartRadio, you can do our streaming, and then we won't have to pay for all this equipment and whatever we need, I don't think they realize what they're doing to their listeners, you know. And yeah, you're right. You know, the advertisements are, I mean, notice, for example, if you go on Amazon and you search for something, you know, you search for a new set of headphones. Well, when you go on Facebook, you'll see in the right-hand side, there's all the stuff that you've recently looked for on Amazon is sitting right there in front of your face. And there's, you know, I mean, it's all by design. It really is. And I'm sure it's a very effective methodology that they use. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. So, you know, it's up to people if they want to have those types. And again, there's some of that stuff you can't control anyway. But if there is, what I say is if there is an option to control it, I always take the safe side of it. And I recommend people do that because you never really know what you're getting into if you allow it.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Kit says that his computer does not remember me on sites anymore, and my keyboard will not control the volume.
Okay. There's a few questions I would have. I wonder if that's the same keyboard that came with his machine. I wonder if there was an update done right before that keyboard issue started. And also there could be a driver update for that keyboard. If it is a keyboard that does have function buttons on it, a lot of times you can have a driver update that'll take care of that. And I wonder if it's a laptop or a desktop. So I hope he's listening and he can answer those questions because it's important for me to know, and then I can maybe guide him into what to do. But remembering sites.
Update was done about 3 weeks ago, and it's a laptop.
It's a laptop. So, see, on the laptop you have, which I figured it probably was a laptop, but there are function keys there, and there is probably a hotkeys driver update that the update maybe has not necessarily taken out, but no longer allowed to be functional. And at some point, that will either auto-update on its own through a future update, or you can manually go to the manufacturer's website. For example, if it's an HP, you would go to support.hp.com, type in your model number or serial number, and it'll take you to a list of drivers, and you'll find that there is it's usually called hotkeys. And you can go ahead and you can do an update on that, and it will more than likely re-enable those function keys if it already has an update available. If not, you just want to check that maybe every couple weeks.
Okay, and what about the computer doesn't recognize his name or remember his connection to websites?
I guess I need him to be a little more specific, but it doesn't remember me on sites anymore. Does that mean that, for example, if you're going into Gmail, that it makes you sign in now and it didn't used to before? If that's the case, there's a possibility that you may have changed the setting within whatever browser you're using to delete history upon exit. And if you have, then it will delete cookies and it will delete history and it will force you to log in each and every time you do. It says I have to re-sign in on BNNS.
I have to re-sign in on BNNS Radio all the time.
Gotcha. So does it do that for all of your websites, Mr. Kit, or is it just BNNS Radio?
I have had other people comment to me that they have to sign in all the time. If they come back to Exat, they've got to sign in. And, of course, when they sign in, it gives them an odd name, and then they have to change their name, where before it would actually remember you and different things. But I've had other people tell me that it doesn't remember. It does basically what CCleaner does. If you run CCleaner, it wipes out all your history.
Correct, yeah.
And you have to reestablish all of those sign-ins in order for it to work. But it does clean out all your junk too. So
correct, and he says specifically that it's just the radio site. So that sounds to me like it's a change on the server side, Mr. Kit, where it's the website that has changed. I guess you would call it. It's sort of like a movie ticket. All right, or no, I don't want to say a movie ticket. Let's just say you're at a fair or something like that, and you want to leave the park for a little while. They'll usually stamp your hand so you can get back in, and that stamp will be good for a certain amount of time to get you back in the park. And so the server side of this, which in this case is the BNNS radio side,
But let me interrupt here for a second, because I don't understand, because BNNS Radio doesn't have a sign-in. In order to get onto the BNNS Radio website, you don't have to sign up for anything.
I thought he had a chat account or something.
Now, are you talking Exat, Mr. Kit, or are you talking the actual BNNS radio station? Online estimating system, I have to resign or re-sign in all the time if I turn the computer off.
And then he said
he has to re-sign into Exat all the time. Apparently, that has been some change in Exat, because a lot of people have been having that problem with Exat, and I don't know how to correct that, because that it is some kind of an Exat setting. That's why we tried a new chat box, but everybody stayed in Exat. Nobody wanted to switch over to the new chat box. So I don't know what happened with Exat as to why they're doing that, and they don't give you any direct contact for tech support to find out.
Well, and all of these. All the websites that you have to sign into, they can change that at any moment. In other words, back to my example where, let's say that you're walking out of a amusement park, you get your hand stamped, and they say, okay, this is good for 24 hours. You can come back within 24 hours. And they may just decide one day, hey, no, this is only good for 1 hour. So if you come back after an hour, you got to pay again, or in this case, you have to sign in again. And that can change on the server side of any website. So it sounds like he's just had a couple sites that may have had server side changes, because if it was a setting in his computer, for example, Internet Explorer, which is the one most people use, which they shouldn't, but they do anyway, there is a setting within Internet Explorer. There's a little checkbox under the Clear History button, which you can check, which it will pretty much, every time you close Internet Explorer, it will delete all of your history automatically if you have that setting. If you use that, you'll have to sign back into everything that you sign into every time you open up Internet Explorer. So if it was a setting and he was doing it that way, it would be something where every single site he's going to, he has to sign back into that he has a sign-in for. But if it's only a couple, it's more than likely it is something to do with the specific server, and that's not anything he can control.
Well, it very well could be, and this is just a guess on my part, is that Exat has made that change because they've been having a lot of problems with young people getting in and just searching active chat boxes, and anybody can go on Exat and create their own chat box or their chat room. And some of the things that these people get in and do on these chat rooms are ridiculous. And they'll jump onto my chat box, and right away they'll start cursing, or they'll start asking sexual things, or acting very inappropriately, and this may be an attempt to keep those people off of Exat, because if they have to keep re-signing and re-signing and re-signing, they may get tired of that and go find another one that they can play with that But anyway, Mr. Kit, let's see, only a couple sites.
Yeah, it sounds like that's what's happening, Mr. Kit, is that exact, and then you must be in the auto body repair because you said an estimating system. So that is, my father-in-law uses one of those as well. He does the same type of work back towards the city, and yep, so I was right. Okay, and anyway, it's probably that website specifically that is just requiring more frequent sign-ins, and it happens. It's mostly just for security reasons. You know, they could have had situations where some accounts had been hacked in the past, and this is just a way of keeping that clean.
If you did the Windows 10 computer update and you didn't, for those security reasons and so forth, could that be part of it?
No, I don't believe any one of those options would have any effect on this. Again, because if it did, it wouldn't just pick specific sites. It would just go across the board, you know, and anything. It could be Gmail, Facebook, Exact, the online estimating system, Hotmail, whatever.
Okay.
So if it's just a couple, then it's a server-side change, and that's not anything you can control. You just kind of have to deal with it. And I expect, sorry, Bill, I expect a lot of sites are going to go to more frequent sign-ins over time.
Is that something that you can contact, for example, Mr. Kit, with the estimating software, which can be a nightmare if you really need to use that a lot? Is there some way that you can contact their tech support, and is there settings that they can change or allow you to stay signed in?
You know, not being an expert on that side of it, I'm going to give what I believe to be the right answer, and that is that I think all of their server-side changes would be policy changes within their corporation, and they're probably just across the board. I don't think they would be able to provide longer authentication for one sign-in client versus somebody else. I think it's just a flat rule that goes in across the board for all the sign-ins or all of the different clients that they work with. Now, what you can do is you can use something like Billy uses, which is Dashlane, which is a password keeper, and that would at least eliminate you from having to type that stuff in all of the time, because now when you go to that site, you can utilize Dashlane to just sign in for you, and it'll be quicker. But outside of that, there isn't anything I can think of to make that any easier or more convenient for you.
Mr. Kit, I might ask you, and it may help the issue, is your estimating software a subscription where you pay to use that software, or is it free?
It's probably subscription-based, and it's probably an annualized or a quarterly or a monthly thing. But the benefit of...
It's a paid version, so I would think that the paid version would be, because a lot of what I've run into a lot is that if you do the free version, it's limited and you have to sign in, but if you upgrade to a premium account or a paid version of the account, then it does save your settings and makes sign-in easier.
And it depends on the website, because sometimes it's just the opposite, where they want to make sure that anybody accessing the site is actually paying and has an account, so they'll make them sign in more. You know, I mean, it's all depending upon what they choose. It's up to them.
Well, we're just going to have to grab them and slap them, because
that would be fine.
This is just ridiculous. But go ahead, Craig.
You mentioned Dashlane, and I've heard commercials on Rush Limbaugh for, I think it's called LifeLock. What makes those any more secure than my Hotmail password? In Hotmail, I've got a file stored in there called Dad's Account Information, and it has all of my passwords to everything, all of the sites, so if something happens to me, the family can get into these sites. But what makes my Hotmail account, Dashlane, or LifeLock, what makes any of them more secure than just a normal login?
Well, a couple answers to that. First off, they aren't. Secondly, they're different. You know, if you figure Hotmail is just an email server, Dashlane is a password keeper, and LifeLock is literally like a credit, identity fraud type service where they'll have the highest encryption possible. The other ones you're kind of go down in grade, but we've done shows before about keeping passwords, and my recommendation is not to use Dashlane. It's not to use, 1Pass, Gator, RoboForm, any of those, because they are storing your information online in most cases. And to me, that's not secure. I just recommend to my clients, and very few follow my advice, and they pay the price eventually, having a small little notebook that you keep your usernames and passwords in. Keep it in a safe location, and anytime you make a change, scratch it off, update it, and write the date that you made the change, because that is something that others can't really get to. Now, if there's a couple of passwords specifically that you use a lot and you could never be without, and you don't want to carry your password book around with you, what I usually tell people is just open your book to that page, snap a photo on your smartphone, and just mark it as a favorite. It's not 100% secure that way, but if you have a smartphone that's passcode locked or fingerprint authenticated, this will enable you to have some security over it, and you can always pull up that photo and see what you wrote for your username and password for those particular websites or site, whatever it is, how many you have. But none of those things are really secure. Any of them can be hacked. There's so many ways it can happen, from robots going to sites and just trying multiple combinations of usernames and passwords until they get it right. Usually nowadays, websites are smart enough to send you an alert once that's happened a number of times. The other way is there are keylogger viruses, which somebody can get on their machine a multitude of ways, and they look for specific type key entries. For example, if there's 16 consecutive numbers that are depressed, they say, okay, that's probably a credit card number, and they'll kind of just put that information together and compile it and send it to the quote-unquote bad guys, and they do what they do with it. So there's so many ways it can happen. None of those things are very secure because they can all be hacked, and they all have been hacked. Yahoo, for one, is probably the one that I hear the most that people's accounts get hacked. And, it's important to change passwords frequently. People don't want to do it because then they have to remember stuff or they have to write something down. And
I'm very guilty at that, and I'm probably one of the weakest link in the chain for that, because for various reasons. But one of the other, in relationship to that, lately when I've signed on to websites and you're sending for information or you're purchasing something or whatever, they've now added on this new feature called "I'm not a robot."
Oh, yeah,
and you have to check that box. What is the reasoning behind that? Because any kid could get on there and say, "I'm not a robot." Explain to me the robot issue.
Sure, it's simple. It requires a little bit of human interaction that a programmed hacking piece of software cannot do. For example, the one I'm seeing a lot lately is there will be tiles of photographs.
Yes. Name or click on all the tiles that show traffic signs.
Correct.
Or cars or.
Correct. So if I was a programmer and I generated hacking software that was just going to continuously try to authenticate your email account over and over till I got it right, I can't do that because I don't, as a robot or as a piece of software, which is the same thing. They're just using it to try to help people understand. They use the term robot. Well, the robot can't see that there's traffic signs on 3 of the 12 tiles. So that's where it says, okay, this is definitely a human being doing this. So that's Good. Now let's see if the password's correct. And that's the reasoning behind it, is it's requiring some human interaction, some interaction that only a human can do, at least as of now. Who knows? In a few years, who knows? But that's the purpose behind it. And it's good. It really is good.
Stepping one step beyond that, and again, okay, Craig, go ahead.
Real quick, just right in that same area, Bill mentioned it, fingerprint on our smartphones, on our tablets. Do you have an opinion whether to do it or not? My concern is, my thumbprint works today, but I'm cutting cucumbers or something. Okay, now I've sliced my thumbprint just a little bit. Is it going to still work?
Well, when you set up those fingerprint configurations when you first get your device, at least I know on the iPhone and the iPad, I don't know that I've done it on an Android device, but they force you to use so many different angles of your fingertip that you have a really good coverage for that. Secondarily, you can set up every single finger on your hand. You can have 10 different fingerprint authentications. You can do every finger. So literally you can touch with your index or your thumb or your ring finger. And so, hey, if somebody had a horrible accident and they lost their index finger, well, they'll just use their thumb,
I think the fingerprint sign-in is stupid.
Well, I like it for convenience. And, the way, for example, Apple says that it's stored is only on the phone. It's not stored in the cloud.
Well, see, now I carry an Android, and you said you've not tried it on an Android, but with an Android it must be different than the iPad or the iPhone because with mine, you had to have your finger precisely on that little circle.
Yeah, no, it's not.
And I ended up fighting it more so than, and then of course it only gives you so many seconds to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And if I didn't get my thumb placed on there just right, or my forefinger, whichever one I used, and I didn't know that there was an option for more than one finger, but regardless, whatever finger it was, if I did not get that finger on there precisely, it didn't work. And I found that it got so aggravating to me, I just switched it off.
It's all about technology. Apple has really perfected that. The first round that Apple did, it took a couple seconds to scan your finger, literally like 1 or 2 seconds. Now it's instantaneous. And I can show you right now, my phone's locked. So normally I would have to enter a passcode to get in here, but if you watch, I literally touch it, boom, I'm in. It's that fast, and I can do it with different angles of my thumb. I only set up my both my thumbs, my left and my right. That's it. I don't have the other ones set up. I just didn't do it. But
so can you set up one so that my wife can pick up my phone and do it also?
Yes, okay. You can. Because you can set up multiple fingers, so you can do, her thumb, your thumb, and yes, you can. But of course, that process takes a couple minutes. It's in the settings, and when you do it, it will have you lift and place your finger back on that button multitudes of times with multiple different angles, so that it's very accurate. It learns all the different angles and ways that you may touch the phone, and it really gets a good scan on your print so that it doesn't have any hiccups.
What about the retina recognition?
I haven't worked with any of that stuff. I've seen it with the Intel security key that it's getting snuck into people's machines. Now it's facial recognition, not retina. But I haven't, and that works, I guess. I have a couple clients that use it. But retina, I haven't had anybody that I work with that has used it.
Now, when we used the retina up at the last company I worked at, we used retina 5 or 6 years ago for a bank in their high security safe deposit box things, and it worked very well back then. So I have to believe that it's much better perfected, Bill.
It works okay if you don't have a reflection on your glasses.
Well, they had to take the glasses off.
Yeah.
And the only issues that they ever had, if it was going to happen, would be contacts. It just took the thing longer to do it through contacts.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, that was, like I said, 5 or 6, it could even be 10 years ago. So plenty of time for them to perfect it. I wouldn't hesitate a bit to do it.
Yeah.
I
know the Android does the the Retina D.
I got a question. On the thumbprint or the fingerprint. Here's my only concern. What if you get into an accident? And I know we've done this for years. There's always been a phone number that's listed as emergency contact in every phone. And we've used that to get a hold of family members and say, so-and-so's been involved in an accident. We've sent them to the hospital.
Well, they suggest that you do that as your number one contact on your contact list.
I understand, but how do you do that now? I mean, what if you've got that thumbprint?
If your phone's locked, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, D, even if you just have a code on your phone, like a 4-digit code, at that point, it would really be the same thing. There isn't... I mean, if a person really wanted to, you can set backgrounds for your phone, background pictures or wallpapers, let's say. If you really wanted to, you could, write something on paper that says, in case of emergency, contact so-and-so, and that could be your background photo, so that when somebody hits the button on your phone to backlight the screen, they'll see that,
Great idea.
That would probably be the thing that I would say, because, you don't ever want to have your phone nowadays, with all the stuff that they store. You don't want to have that sucker unlocked. I don't care if it's a fingerprint or if it's a code that you type in or a pattern that you swipe with your hand or your fingerprint, rather. It's never safe to have a smartphone with all of the things we store on there, whether it be our email, our Facebook accounts, all those things, without some sort of a authentication process in the beginning. So, the emergency phone number issue is probably something pretty important. Of course, if they can't find your identification or anything like that, you can always go that route. You can have, a little photograph set as your background. And I don't know about Android, but with the iPhone, you can have two different background settings. You can have one for when the phone is unlocked and being used. You can have, say, a picture of, like me, it would be Wrigley Field. I know Bill loves to hear that.
Oh, yeah.
But now my lock screen wallpaper is different. It's a photo of scenery, like fishing or something. I don't know what it is. I look at it every day, and I don't know what it is. But that would be the one you would set for, the emergency situation. And, again, it's just a thought. If it's something that's important to people, I think there's so many ways they can identify folks nowadays by the car you're driving, the license plate, maybe your wallet, your ID. But if that was important to you to have the phone set up, I think that's probably the route I would take.
And also, not only in the case of an emergency, but if you should lose, drop, or misplace your phone and somebody picks it up, you could have on that picture, if found, contact.
Correct. Yes, you can do that, or a little sticker on the back of the phone or something. There's a lot of ways you could do it. There's a lot of ways you could do it, but probably the thing you wouldn't want to do is to have the phone unlocked. Just my opinion. I'm sure there's a lot of people that do that, but I would not. I would not. I mean, I have 8 or 9 email addresses. I have my Facebook account. I have my Facebook fan pages. I have Twitter. I've got Instagram. I've got LinkedIn. I mean, and anybody, if they can get into my phone, they can instantly access all of those accounts and, do whatever they want with it. So,
well, before you go, I'm just going to take your left thumb and...
Yeah.
Hey, I got one last quick question if you got time for it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Something that I've been approached with over the past couple of days, printing from your phone or iPad.
Yeah.
Or
easy.
your tablet. Is it easy?
Yeah, very easy. It depends on what you're using, though, because...
I do it all the time.
If you... So here's the key to the whole thing. There's a few important points. The first one being you want to have a newer printer that's wirelessly networked and that is an AirPrint or mobile device capable printing machine. Something within the last 2 years would be fine. Secondly, if it's an older printer, though, you can still do it through the manufacturer's app. Like, for example, I have a Brother laser printer at my office, which is quite old. It's 7 years old. And it's not wireless. It's networked, hardwired network through my office network. But even though it's not wireless, and even though I can't just use the print functionality right on my iPhone or my iPad, Brother, the manufacturer, made an app. And that app enables me to print. So now, when I need to print a document, I can just go ahead and hit the share button, and one of the options I'll get is that Brother app. I open that, and then I can hit the print button that way. So that's how you do it with older stuff. New stuff is easy. It's not as easy with Android, though, I'm going to say. And I hate to keep knocking Android. I know a lot of people love it. I think it's fine. It's just different. And to me, it's a lot more complex to use. It's just the way I think. It doesn't mean I'm right or wrong. It's just the way I think.
You're wrong, because I find it very easy.
Okay. But I had a lady with a brand new Samsung phone just last week. And I'm sorry, my phone keeps blowing up here. I had a lady with a brand new Samsung phone last week, and when I was at her house, she's like, "Well, before you leave, can you make this print?" Actually, it was a tablet. I'm sorry, it was a tablet. And so I said, sure, and I went into the settings, and in the older Android software, I kind of remember there was an area where you could set up a printer in the settings. But now, what I had to do for her is I had to go ahead and I had to set up the application for HP Print on the device. And when I set that up for her, now she has to do the same thing. Even though it's a newer printer, and even though it is a newer device, a newer tablet, she has to utilize that print app in order to get all the functionality. Because when she just went to, for example, she went to her pictures. The big thing for her was printing pictures. So she would open the Android device, she'd go to her pictures, she'd pick a picture, and she would just use the standard print feature. Well, the way it came out on the printer was, it was about maybe a fifth of the size of the actual photo or the paper, and it was in the middle. So it just wasn't big enough for her. But now when she went into the first step, going into the HP Print app, then choosing the photo, then she could choose the size and the orientation and the quality, so she could fine-tune that and then send it to the printer. So there's a few different ways. It depends on your setup. But it can be done, and it's not very difficult. No matter what equipment you have, as long as it's new enough, it can be done. Sometimes there's a couple extra steps. Sometimes it's just very simple. So, but it is not hard, Big D, at all. And I'm sorry if I overcomplicated that, but in case there's somebody listening who's maybe run into that issue before, maybe they'll have learned something.
No, I was going to research it, but I knew you were going to be on the show today, so I just waited.
Sure. As long as what I have found with my Android, if your Android will find the Wi-Fi, and it will list the printers that are on that Wi-Fi, then you can connect to it. And if it's an unlocked or an unsecured Wi-Fi, like at the public library, you can go to the public library and you can
the supposed event took place.